Welcome back, everybody, to Magnolia on Money, where we discuss everything financial from the economy to retirement. I'm Ed Cox with Magnolia Wealth, and today we are going to touch on a few pieces of the economy that have given us some pretty valuable information as of the last few weeks. And so I thought, this is a good time for us to run through some of those, and hopefully it'll help give you an idea of kind of where we are as an economy and what may be some of the factors contributing to how the Fed is going to react, and then how the market could react in the near future. So I'll share my screen as always, and let's get started. So first, we'll talk about, the economy and how we're seeing growth. So the economy grew at 2.4% annualized rate in the second quarter of this year. It's kind of a modest growth from last year's quarters of about 2%. Consumption grew at a modest 1.6%. So, we're seeing consumption numbers, kind of tail off a little bit. Business fixed income spending also grew at 7.7%. And that's its best pace since first quarter of 2022. And the GDP price index, PCE, increased at a 3.8% annual rate, and that's from a 5.3 last quarter. So the economy is clearly showing kind of resilience, in the face of this monetary policy and tightening that we're seeing from the Fed. But strains on the consumer and business spending, may slow that growth, in the following quarters moving forward. So kind of where we are from a growth perspective, still having, more growth than probably a lot of people would have expected with what the Fed is doing. So let's look at profits for companies. So earnings for the second quarter of 2023 reported year-over-year growth of about 17.1%. So that's pretty resilient. 71% of companies beat their earnings estimates. So that's pretty good. I think operating earnings per share was 54.9. So but here's a little bit of a but there. Only 53% beat revenue expectations, with slowing inflation, playing a factor there. Profit margins did improve, and with current estimates, they're tracking right around that 12% mark. So financials were the largest contributor to earnings per share growth. So we saw that. And the energy sector, obviously, recently has been one of the largest detractors that we saw in Q2. So that's where we are from a profit standpoint. Businesses. Back to inflation. So the July CPI report pointed towards a continued moderation in inflation. So we're starting to see inflation come down. Headline CPI rose at about 3.2% year over year, and that is seasonally adjusted. It's a slight tick up from last month. But I think core CPI, as you see there, is easing to 4.7 on a year-over-year basis. And we're seeing this disinflationary trend is still intact. I think the key question that we see here, or we're asking, is whether core inflation can make further progress to that 2% mark that the Fed is targeting, without slower economic growth and a softer labor market. So as we see labor market and slower economic growth, can we get there with what the Fed's trying to do? So we'll see. When we look at jobs, so the August jobs report provided, a little bit further evidence that the labor market is softening. So that's kind of a plus in what the Fed's trying to do. A large increase in the labor force has pushed the unemployment rate to about 3.8%. We still see, reports are still showing a decent momentum in the labor market, though. So, and a recession, with this information, kind of tells a recession this year seems unlikely to happen. But that said, a more balanced labor market, easing wage pressure, really should allow inflation to move lower, reducing the need for the Fed to have more rate hikes. So those are some of the, I guess, top things we're looking at, from our jobs, the inflation side of things, and then profits of the companies, and then how our growth is as a country. So I think this kind of gives us a good insight as to where we are, really kind of where we thought, what we talked about in the the longer video where I talked about the kind of our halftime report of where we've been the first half of this year. But I do think it's important that we focus in and remind ourselves kind of what's going on, why are markets reacting the way they are, and we're really seeing that being driven from these economic data that keeps coming in. So as we monitor that and look for bright spots, and also look for cracks in the economy that could help us make decisions. So I hope this has helped. Y'all have a great week. God bless. And Forrest will be here next week. He's got a good show planned, and so he'll be here to share some information with you guys. Y'all have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.